faces, deep safe places, sneaky spaces, logged on early for their mining races, going nowhere, going nowhere. Their tears are filling up the local. It's oppression, it's oppression. Hide my smile, I want to drink their sorrow. Still they swallow who they follow. And I find it kind of funny, find it kind of sad. The fleets in which they're dying are the best they've ever had. They find it hard to target, they find it hard to take. When Asher flies in circles, they are very, very mad bros. Mad bros.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Push to Talk. Hopefully all the sound is working. If it is, it's the first time ever in like 2 years. So, can you guys hear me okay over the Discord?
I can hear you, yeah.
That was kind of weird.
Yeah.
First time ever in 2 years. How does that make sense?
I don't know.
I'm sorry, I wasn't listening. I can hear you.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I want to welcome to the show. We'll start with the folks who are not on video. We'll start down there with RJ. Hey, RJ. Say hey to everybody.
Hola. How you doing?
He's back. He's very excited. We've got Scythe out there as well. Not on video this week.
Hello.
All right. Then we have the normal crew. Well, actually, we have Paramedic joining us back from a little bit of a hiatus. Welcome back, Para.
Thank you.
We put him on the big screen because of that beautiful picture of Mittens in the back there. It's just
Right,
very
right.
It's classy. Yeah. It's very Masterpiece Theater like. If you anybody remembers that show. Mist is already eaten. He's ready. He's primed. He's ready to ask all his questions.
Well, I've asked questions in the pre-show, so you can catch up with what we talked about by catching the podcast.
And we have a total newbie out there, and he's not being attacked by a cat presently, so he's pretty good.
Now I'm being attacked by bees. Oh no.
Oh no. And we have our
So everybody that's out there
Yeah.
that watches Property Brothers, tell me that CCP Rise is not Jonathan.
I have no idea. I actually don't watch Property Brothers, but I'm not as old as you, so I'm good. And welcome, obviously, to CCP Rise. Thank you, CCP Rise, for taking some
Thanks.
time on your weekend,
You bet.
early in the morning.
On everyone's weekend, yeah. No problem.
So thank you very much. And hello to everybody out there in the audience. Thank you. We obviously will be happy to, if you have questions, please, for CCP Rise, post them in the chat, and we will relay them. I don't know if you're watching the chat, Rise. But
I
if
did
not-
pull it up, yeah. So
Okay.
I'll watch for stuff, and if there's really little things, maybe I can just grab them in chat instead of having to talk.
That's absolutely great. Sometimes we'll repeat them for podcasts.
That's
I do apologize for the blue halo around my head. We're trying out, on me at least, the new VCam from XSplit that they've got out there. And I tried to calibrate it, so it didn't do that, but that's not working. So, hey.
Is that the
I just
camera-
assumed you'd achieved enlightenment. Yeah.
I have.
Yeah.
but
Good job on that.
thank you.
You know?
Is that-
Thank you.
Is that the setting so you don't need like a green screen?
I like when I'm reading in the mid-show messages say, "Don't forget to unmute," and thank you for that production quality.
Oh, did you-
I'm
Did you-
actually texting your wife.
Did you unmute us?
No,
People in the audience can hear us. I know because I muted all of you on here and listened to the show for a second.
I had to don my bee that newbie brought me because Para had his on, so I didn't want him to feel alone with his bee pin.
I never feel
from
alone
Vegas.
with me and my bee
There you go.
in my heart.
And his invisible friend.
So before
Yeah,
we get into the show, Para, did you have anything to update us on your little hiatus or anything like that? Or
Oh, well, I guess at some point, God, it's been months. I've been deep in 6RCQ, just waiting. I guess the war ended months ago, but I've been hell camping 6RCQ until like, I don't know, a few days ago, and I came home and I guess I have a child now, and a lot
has changed?
yeah, it's hard kind of adjusting back to here, especially because I don't know, at one point the Keepstar disappeared and that was really weird, and I was like, fuck, the North is doing really well. I mean, God, they're so, but apparently we just like took it back, just on Anchor, whatever. It's weird. It's crazy.
I want to know how did your wife get pregnant and have a child while you were hell camping out of town? I mean, how does that work?
Well, I mean, it was probably she was pregnant from before. I mean, the war was only like 2 months long. Just, come on now.
I was trying to trip you up a little, but it didn't.
Right.
It's get a little jealousy thing going on there,
Right. Of my wife?
I don't know.
Oh.
You missed the best part of the pregnancy when she's all grumpy, so you're good hell camping.
Right. Well, I was hell camping 6RCQ. It wasn't very exciting. Nobody showed up. Weird.
Interesting. All right.
Yeah.
So, Rise, you're here, and this show is really all about you. And,
Oh, wow.
And CCP and what CCP is doing, and primarily about Onslaught, right? From an internal perspective, from CCP's side, what are some of the things that you personally or CCP thought were really important developments within the Onslaught release that you were putting out there?
Well, it's gonna be tricky for me to do a good job talking about this topic, but obviously the Word X stuff is the biggest thing going on for us, and it's been a pretty big topic. I mean, forever, I guess, and particularly lately, it's really gotten to be super important to everyone internally to start addressing. So that's definitely the biggest thing, but not the biggest thing for my team. So I'll have to kind of tread a little carefully talking about the WardX stuff, but that's definitely a super big deal for us. You know, we did a bunch of investigation. I'm sure you guys have heard quite a bit about this if you've been paying attention, but you know, there was a lot of investigation into WardX because it's one of the things that we hear most in sort of our normal feedback channels, I guess. Things like exit surveys and GM tickets and stuff like that. You know, there's just constant issues surrounding WardX, people having a terrible time, and so that eventually led to some pretty deep analytics investigation, which showed that in fact it's actually really toxic. It's hurting the game really bad the way it was set up before. So trying to start dealing with that and get us to a healthier place so that people don't just literally run from the game because they get, you know, harassed as soon as they start to make friends is a pretty big deal.
Because to highlight that, I created a trial account when I was going through the new player experience. We were looking at like shaping it for an article, and I got invited to a random corporation that like 86 people in, but they had an active war deck.
Yeah.
And I chatted to them and I said, hey, you know, you got like, they were really chatty, they were like really enthusiastic. I didn't have anything that like linked me to my Goonswarm characters or anything. So to them, I was generally a new player. And they said, hey, yeah, I can join in and help out. I'm like, well, I know you guys have got a war deck and I know that's bad. So I didn't join that group. So I didn't, if I was a genuinely new person that knew about the war deck system, that's me saying no to a whole social aspect of it.
Yeah,
I know
exactly.
It'd be bad for me.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly the problem. And you know, we, like all EVE players, know once you can get involved in the social aspect, the game really takes off. I mean, it's really not a game until you're, I mean, I say this as a mostly solo PvPer, but it really gains so much when people get involved with other players. And so when we have this huge disincentive to do that, it's pretty backwards, and it's easy to see for us the stark negative effects from that on what happens with new player retention and stuff. So yeah, it's a big deal to try and start dealing with that.
Yeah, I would think it would be even worse if you were a new player, missed, and you didn't know about the WardX system and you joined and just kept getting blown up, right? I mean, that's...
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of really bad effects. Another really common one is that you just get told not to log in. You know, you join... You join and people don't want you losing stuff. Maybe you lose a little bit and they say, oh, just don't log in until the war deck's over. Well, people just stop logging in and then they just never log in again. And
they play something completely different.
Yeah.
That's what I was looking into. Is like another thing is the biggest concern is now the ceilings moved from don't be in a player corporation to avoid war decks to now don't own a structure.
Right.
But that's a massive jump. If you think about the numbers, like when you set structures up, you have to pay for the structure itself, the fuel, the modules, everything, and then effectively you're having to upkeep a structure. Yes.
Yeah.
Worry about paying high index fees because you're set up in a system that's not popular, so you get low index. And then you've got to think about how much money you've got to put stuff through before the structure starts paying for itself. Because we were looking at rigging Alphanors for moon mining in HiSec, and the 2% bonus that you get to the yield of the frac, we were like, we're going to have to probably do this for a year, and then we break even. Is that worth it? Is that worth, as a small group, to invest $1 billion into this to then effectively gain maybe a couple million extra each threat? Or should we just do other things? And it was that decision to, it's no point to effectively spend all of that money on on structures when we can use other people's structures. Yes, we have to pay the fees, but we don't have, we're not at risk of losing all of our structures and loss of equipment.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be another thing to consider in that sort of cost-benefit equation. Obviously, people find structures worth it in plenty of circumstances, so I'm sure they'll still be there for a lot of folks. But the other thing we could see really clearly when looking at how this all works now is that once people do find it worth it to have a structure, once they're capable of figuring out problems like the one you just described, they're able to also handle the problem of Wardex a lot better. The horrible logout rates and churn rates related to being in a war deck are much less pronounced, and usually the kills in the decks are more even, and people, basically by the time they're able to figure out something like whether or not it's worth it to get that first structure, they're also able to handle war decks, and so just seems like a good cutoff point to start with.
And that is, I mean, to a large degree, that is the game, right? Figuring out what you're capable of doing and trying things and putting down a structure and realizing, well, shit, that wasn't really worth the money, and I'm losing money, or, oh, wow, that worked really well. Like, that is the game. And we don't want a game. I don't think anybody wants a game where successes are handed to you, or there's an obvious, like, this is exactly how you should do it and follow these ways you're successful. I mean, just join Goonfleet at that point, right? The bottom line is, like, you want to have the opportunity to fail. That's how the stories get told. And that's how you learn and get better at the game.
Yeah, and I mean, also when you have difficult problems like that, you get experts in those problems who get delegated to, and then you either have to decide if it's worth figuring it out for yourself or having someone else do it for you, in which case you have to decide if you trust them or not. Like, yeah, this all the good Eve stuff comes out of those kind of problems, I think.
Right. We had a question in the audience from Sadis about new player retention numbers and comparing between alliances or blocks, like difference between a group like Test versus Horde versus Imperium or so on.
Yeah, that's a good question. I actually have never seen much analysis geared towards comparing different social groups. Most of the time we're looking at, really, I think we feel it's so clearly a win once people make it to those groups, no matter which one it is, that we don't bother trying to, especially because we're not directly supporting or incentivizing one group or another. We don't really have a reason to try and compare. And usually when we're talking about new players, we're just like, how do we keep them there for 2 logins, or how do we keep them there for at least 3 hours? Not what are they doing, a week after they join one group versus another. But it'd be cool to look at. I mean, we've talked, throughout all the years I've been at CCP, there's always been this lingering conversation of, since we know, that you guys are so good at getting new players going and educating them and supporting them, it would kind of be a dream for us to just hand them to you directly. But it's scary because there's lots of potential issues. There's lots of griefing and issues about favoritism and stuff that could happen depending on how we do it. So we've always stayed away from it. But if we did start to go down that road a little more explicitly, we definitely, I think, would want to look at how different groups, results look for keeping people around.
Yeah, that's the value of it. I mean, on the one hand, you don't want to kind of put a rubber stamp on one group versus another and say, these guys are better if you want to join the game and actually keep playing, right? But at the same time, different groups have different cultures and different strategies for maintaining players, and we have an interest in new players joining the game too. Obviously, we want people to join and to play and continue playing and enjoying it. So from the corporate directorship perspective, it would be useful information, because we could say, okay, well, if players who join Horde stay and continue playing longer than players who join Test, what are the differences between those cultures and what are they doing that we do? But at the same time, you don't want to be seen as going, oh yeah, Horde, the best should join.
No, that would be. I mean, that it might be. There might be a way to do that. Might be a way to say that we, rather than rubber stamping a particular group, we might be able to look at something about what that group's doing, and then say, when we see the players get into this many fleets a week, or when they, I don't know, some metric that isn't necessarily saying it's because they're in this group, but maybe is linked to the things that group is doing. Then everybody could learn from it. That could be pretty cool, actually.
Groups with, who do SRP, who do it within 1 week, tend to do better than groups that have, a month long, or something like that. Yeah, that would be really interesting, and wouldn't give the, Horde, that's the one.
Right. Yeah, that'd be cool. there's so much
per-
that'd be good to do related to new players. It's like a never-ending black hole of effort.
Right.
I mean, I could see that being like a slippery slope if they even publish that kind of data because, you know, even though it's just pixels, people still don't want to lose something. So you really put a metric out that says, oh, you're safer in this organization or this organization
Right.
tends to be better. You know, I think that would actually kill the game.
The game's hard to kill, I promise.
I think you need
Yeah.
choices.
The game has seemed to be pretty hard to kill, right? Despite some of the best efforts of all the parties involved at different
Yep.
times. I
Yep,
think.
exactly. We've tried sometimes. You guys try sometimes.
Right.
Still here.
We don't try and destroy the game.
Not. Well,
We don't
maybe
either.
don't. Not lately. not it's been a while.
That one
Except
time.
for that
Just
one
that
guy
one
that's
time.
still in 6RCQ
CQ.
hell camping.
So there's that one time, and then the time before that, and that one other time.
That one time in 2007, and then in 2009. Yeah.
2008.
Mhm.
Oh, and then 10.
What the heck happened to Scythe there? Oh, holy crap! Do we get feedback on his mic?
He bounced up to Venus, or he was in Uranus.
Just
Wow.
stop it. Stop it. We're trying to be professional. Rise is here. Remember? Behave.
Professional.
So what kind of considerations now? Obviously, there's the corporate structure stuff, but then without talking about that, how do you attract new players on top of retaining new players? The game's been around forever, and I think everybody in the world has expectations about it. What kind of efforts are being made beyond just retaining players you are, but to see somebody going, oh, Eve, yeah, I should check that out.
Yeah, I mean, that's a super tough question.
Right.
We have seen some super big successes with with super different things. This Is Eve attracted like really insane amount of players.
Okay.
Free to play transition attracted a ton of players. Big news items, big fights attract tons of players. And then we're always trying to, chip away at the early experience so that those new players say slightly nicer things about
Right.
getting in with mixed results.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was talking, and she's actually out there in the audience, I think, still Lilith, and we're working on an INN article about coming into the game new. And I think one of the biggest things in our discussions came up was learning how to move your ship, even with the intro, right? And even knowing people. Having someone, I think, because I logged in, did a screen share, showing her how to move a ship was extremely beneficial. I mean, Eve is so different. No, it's not a dumb thing, Lilith. It is very different when you're used to playing games where you point yourself and you go, right? Eve isn't like that. Did we lose?
You're a submarine.
Yeah. I didn't hear your response, Rise. He's lighting up, but he's not coming through his sound. Do you guys hear him?
No.
Okay. Try to
I
drop
asked him
down.
a really hard question, and he muted himself.
Here, try it again. Sorry, the Discord server ate a bunch of.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks
Is it any
like
better?
Discord.
Much better,
Yeah,
much
yeah.
better. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, Discord
I had to
issue.
change this to Central Server.
Oh, I'm glad we can blame the server, not me.
Yeah,
But yeah,
wouldn't-
I
it
just
wouldn't be
totally.
a show without an audio problem.
The
sorry, I
fact
fixed the audio problem in half a second.
the fact that Scythe is on the ball managing the Discord server is amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey, that's the only reason I'm here. Honestly, I don't provide any other content other than making sure the Discord works.
But yeah, to go back, I mean, I just totally agree, and we've seen a lot of that in any user testing or new player testing we've done. That like we have a totally different paradigm for how the very basics, the super fundamentals of the game works, and so people just cannot quickly intuitively pick it up for the most part, which is a really big challenge. And that I think it has a lot to do with why so many of the people who pick it up actually leave almost right away. Like a lot of them don't make it past the place where their ship spawns because they're like, what is this? And just give up immediately. So yeah, it's tough, but we're always trying new stuff in the NPE and trying to make little incremental improvements so that experience is more likely to be positive, and then hopefully that improves sentiment and like word of mouth about it. But probably a lifelong battle we'll have.
Probably. Eventually. Somewhere, it's a hard game to explain, right? We've all tried to explain what EVE is to other people, and it's a challenging game, but it is clearly... I've never played a video game this long, right?
Yeah.
And other games that you buy, you pay $50, $60 for a game, you play it for a month or 2 or 3, and then, okay, every once in a while you'll go back to it. Whereas EVE, you're into it, and it's interesting all the time, at least once you're in. It's just getting over that bridge to be all in, right?
Yep, totally. And I think that's, a lot of the folks we do get convinced of that before they figure out how to play it. So they're willing to go through the work to figure it out. If you're excited enough and you have people telling you it's worth it, then you'll spend the time to actually learn all those basics that are not so intuitive. But yeah, we just gotta convince people that.
EVE is not a second job. I think that's an over thing. But
no, I don't like that one. I don't like that a lot of the perception is that it takes so much of your life. At least not my experience, that has to be the case.
EVE's one of the rare games where the more you put in actually per hour, the more you can get out. So if you're ratting away, if you rat for 2 hours, you'll get a certain amount of payout. If you rat for 3 hours, you should get 50% more than what you would have got if you had ratted for 2 hours. The fact that there is actually a direct, like I put in an input, I get an output that is effectively for how much work I put in, is why people think EVE is a second job and see it.
Yeah.
The more they work, the more effort they put in, the more you do, the more you get out. So the advantage of playing EVE is effectively get to a state where you're happy with what you do. Like, I build stuff in Perimeter at the moment. I log in for 10 minutes every day to build my stuff, to move my stuff around. I get a good output on that. But obviously I can get even more if I spend more time looking at finding stuff, setting up my own PI so I don't have to buy minerals and materials.
Maybe the trick to breaking that reputation then is to give you like less returns on all activities the longer you play. Like ratting bounties go down each hour you play longer. So pretty soon that problem goes away and people just like only play an hour a day. Like put like an energy system.
That'll work well.
That'll
right?
keep players, right?
Yeah. Other systems in general that make people not want to play as much. Like if you had a system where people could declare war on other people and shoot them for free, and they could just do it to anyone, then the bigger people would shoot the smaller people, and the smaller people wouldn't log in.
Yeah,
and there you go.
We can fix this reputation in no time.
We solved it. We just solved it.
Yeah.
Right.
Whoa, we just got a Tolkien-esque question.
Look at
Holy
that
shit.
question.
Holy fuck.
I'd say,
There's no question mark. I don't think that's a question.
It's
that
a
looks
statement.
like
It's
a
a
run-on
statement.
sentence.
I actually have to. Can someone copy that into the mid chat because I can't read all of them.
Yeah, I'll copy
Yeah, hold
it.
on.
Okay, you do
Oh,
it.
Eric. Yeah, I got it.
I mean, without reading that entire thing before I start talking, something really interesting about new player experience, and I've been, always thinking about this a lot because new player is really interesting to me. And I was listening to another a lead dev talk about Path of Exile this weekend and how it is sort of a trap to like go too deep into figuring out how to set up NPE because for the most part, NPE metrics are extremely consistent and resilient, kind of regardless of what you do. We did an A/B test a couple years ago when I was on the team working on NPE stuff, where we completely ripped out the NPE, so there was actually nothing. Like you just came into the game and there was nothing at all. Like you just started in space and did whatever you wanted, and it affected new player retention by something like 2 absolute %. So we went from like 14% new player retention to 12% or something like that. Those are not the actual numbers. I just am like as an example. And for the most part, that's the case. Like, I mean, you do see differences, of course, but it's not ever as dramatic as I think people would expect. For the most part, people react to the game regardless of what the new player experience is set up to be like. And that's just the case across all games. That's what the Path of Exile lead was talking about, is that they were scared when they launched because their new player retention was so low that, only like 40% of their players got to the first boss, which should happen in the first 15 minutes or something. And so they put a bunch of effort in, and then after they were all done, found out that it didn't change it at all. That's just sort of I don't know, like a property of their game, is that's about what their new player retention is going to be like, almost no matter what they do.
So do we know what the industry average is for new player retention in any kind of MMO type game? Probably could look it up on the internet, but I just don't know off the top of my head.
It's actually pretty hard to find out. I've been able to talk with some other devs and compare, but I don't think there are like publicly available. You can like pay for big super data sets that have a bunch of clients that have similar games, but even that is like sort of limited. So I've never seen like an industry standard for what those metrics look like.
Yeah, it would be really interesting. I mean, I've played a number of other MMOs, but never really took hold in any of them. I mean, once, the first one I ever did was Asheron's Call, and, I played that until it blew up, basically. And then Eve, right?
Right. Yeah, I mean...
So earlier, Rise, Lamsey actually asked a question, and it says, if you look at GSF and the Radig mining reports, I'm assuming he means the MER, how does CCP look at that, and is GSF getting too big?
What a loaded question. Not to put you on the
Remember,
spot,
we
Rise.
have you mostly
just
surrounded.
just want to know. I mean, it's like, Gurgoons, Agoons, those successful bastards.
Definitely no specific those successful bastards. There's really no conversation internally that's centered around a particular group or style or output or anything. There is some, like, we have some ISK faucet issues and some mineral faucet issues, and we need to probably be thinking about that and start thinking about ways to improve it, but it's definitely not targeted at any. I mean, not that people will be affected equally if we make changes, but it's the conversation is never like those goons are being too productive or something.
It's probably, I mean, right? It's a different kind of individual that has come to the GSF, right? It's clearly a place of min-maxing, right? And other groups don't seem to be that organized. So from a game balance perspective, that has to be hideously challenging for CCP, right? Nerfing things like ISK faucets and, mining and things like that just piss everybody off, right? Because they're like, I have to work harder to get the same amount of income that I used to have to support my gameplay style, right? At the same time, it makes anybody going against that larger group have a bigger challenge. But it's clear, for a decade at least, you've had an ISK faucet problem. You can't pull.
Yeah,
You can't scale things, though. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, the scaling is like, if you nerf, how do you punish people for working together as large groups of individuals versus without punishing individuals who try to work alone, right? It's a scalability issue. If you have 10,000 people doing the same thing, it's going to be 10,000 times more effective than one person doing it, and possibly more so because of your economies of scale.
Yeah,
That's the grading on a curve aspect.
There's obviously, lots of areas that work that way, and we're not going to try and change that. Like, we're not going to try and scale, like deliberately scale to or deliberately change things to punish people, in systems that scale really well right now with numbers. I think something we do want to do, and we've actually been successful at more than usual lately, is create opportunities for create incentives for people to do stuff that doesn't scale as well. An old example of that is like exploration is like one of the most popular, especially for earlier players, PvE things to do or income things to do, but it doesn't scale in the same way, and it doesn't create as much faucet, and so it's kind of healthier for the system. So when we can support that kind of activity and sort of entice people away from the things that scale really obscenely, and like that's good, and that's what a lot of the Abyss is doing. It's putting a lot of reward for effort and focusing a lot on rewarding away from actual just raw ISK faucet. So we're looking for opportunities to do that kind of stuff without hopefully ever having to go and say like there's actual diminishing returns on doing this activity that are arbitrary and just make you feel bad. But that's a tricky line to walk. I mean, like you said, it's tough. Anytime we're going in and saying like you're making a whole bunch of money doing a thing and we kind of need it to be less, that's obviously really tough territory to get into without making everybody feel bad.
So quickly touching up on that, with the patch notes for December 2018, there is one sentence that got a lot of people a bit rifled up, and that is, nice, Goblins find it.
Is it the anomaly one?
Yes, it is the anomaly one.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say that's not my. I actually don't know the details exactly, and I'm guessing if they wanted you to have more detail, they would have put it in the patch notes. So
yeah,
I'm just gonna leave that alone. I'm sorry.
That's fair. I mean, people would be like, "Why didn't you ask that question?"
Yeah.
The other thing I want to mention is the new player experience. That's obviously gone through a couple of iterations, and people saying you should get skill points, you should get rewards for completing them. Completing the new player experience actually gives you skill rewards. So if you do complete it, you get, for the first quest mission that you have, you get given a Spaceship Command 4. So that's a day worth of training you get for free for completing it. So
yeah, we also have
pretty good.
I mean, having rewards, I guess, is its own thing if people are just thinking that it'd be kind of more motivational. But we've also just messed around a ton with how many skill points you start with, how many skill points you end up with by the time you're done with it. So there's been lots of, we're always kind of playing around with that. Probably that will happen more.
I mean, the big demand was the Magic 14, the skills that affect every single ship. And effectively maybe pushing up a bit more in that. Is like the targeting, the shield, the armor, the mechanics, all those skills, they affect everyone. So they say, well, if you're going to fly a ship, these are the 14 skills that will always affect your ship.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I'm on board with that. A couple of years ago, we went in because there was we bounced back and forth on these new player philosophies a lot. A long time ago, they had the idea that it was really valuable for people to experience progression, that like you needed to be kind of unlocking things and training things so that you felt like you were getting better and you could see how the progression in the game worked. So they actually stripped the starting skill points down to almost nothing, and then tried to get you training all that core stuff early. And then there was a period where a while back where I was working on it, or I was on a team that was working on it, and we said, well, it's really sucks if there's just actual barrier to, you can't do anything effectively because you don't have these skill points.
Yeah.
So we're going to go all the way the other way, and we pushed the starting skill points up a ton. We went from 50,000, I think, up to 420,000 or 260,000. I don't remember.
350,000, I think, for a new starter, and then like when you get the do the first mission, you get Spaceship Command 4.
Right.
It goes up by about 75,000.
Yeah. So that was like, we times 8 or whatever the starting points, with that basic idea that like you just need that stuff. So let's just get that out of the way, and then your training can be on things that seem fun, like new ship classes or whatever. And maybe we could go even further that way. Get those, the ones you mentioned, like even higher. But I don't know. That's something we'll probably just keep playing around with, see if there's some magic point where it seems to have the best effect. But
got someone in chat saying about don't think new players realize that they're getting skill or how many skills they are getting in the new play experience. There's a lot of string changes and a lot of text changes that are coming with the update that effectively tell you and explain it a bit more. I've read them on Hobo Leaks, and from there it seems like it is actually explaining a lot more information, which is good.
Okay, yeah, I don't know about the specific text changes this release, but I
got bored.
I just know.
Hold
I
it.
just know we're always fiddling with that. I kind of agree. I mean, that's we're just saying, reminded me of sort of the other philosophy, which is that the skill point system is actually kind of generally unneeded complexity early, and that we'd be better off like setting some sort of auto alpha training that we can just not make people worry about that in their first day or two, and instead have them worry on like moving their ship or understanding some other basics about how the universe works. But
So do you think
just
it's
keep trying stuff?
do you think it's a information related deficiency? Meaning, I know you guys at CCP have reduced your player team who would have covered topics like this and maybe introduced it on the website and things like that. Is that actually hindering you guys, because a lot of you guys are probably wearing multiple hats now and having to put that kind of information out as well?
No, I don't think so. The team, like the at least from my perspective in dev, the sort of amount of people that would be focusing on this kind of stuff hasn't really changed very much. So it's possible that community team resources would have been affected a while back when we cut that team down a little bit. But we're still doing a lot of kind of newer player-oriented community work, even though the team's a little smaller. So hopefully it's not affected too much.
There's one I want to ask before we move off to patch notes and stuff. Abyssal Dead Space. Abyssal jump mechanics have been significantly changed to allow for invulnerability whilst using Trigavian gates. Does this now mean when I'm leaving the Abyss with all my high-end T5 loot, and I've got 20 seconds on the clock, if I hit jump on that gate, I'm not going to blow up?
That's what that means. We finally got that fixed.
I think that's because you don't have a 20-minute window. You've got a 19.5-minute window.
Yeah.
The server's got to tick for you to have actually left Abyss.
Yep. That's the thing. It was set up that the timer is based on you being in the Abyss, and as far as the server's concerned, you're there until you move out, even if you started the session change. So you would get killed, which was really bad. That was probably the biggest experience issue we had, and it's been sitting there for a bit, and now it is fixed, which is
that's good to hear.
Yeah,
because that's one of the things that was holding some people back effectively, because they say, well, what if I click jump and stuff happens? You have to go into Abyss knowing that you're probably not going to get reimbursement if things go wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it was like a niche or a rare problem, because most people are finishing with more time than that, but it's such a bad feeling when that actually happens. So very happy to get that fixed finally.
Keeping on, does anyone else have anything they want to ask? Because I've got a couple things I want to sign off about Abyss, unless other people want to jump in with questions.
I'm just waiting for the Entosis question.
I'm not going to actually ask about Entosis questions. I mean, having the Entosis Trigavian mods that allow me to capture something longer would be cool. That's something I just thought of right there. So we've got Abyss for cruisers, we've got Abyss for frigates. I assume possibly we're looking at the 3v3 PvP arena with the groups of frigates facing off another group of frigates. We've got Trigavian battleships. We've got Trigavian Logi, which is exciting. 125 drone bay? 125 drone bay.
Might be a little big. Yeah.
With 75 on the bandwidth, which is pretty exciting.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be the best battle logi around.
But the thing about that is you can get your 75 bandwidth to drones repping your target whilst your main repper spewls up. And it also has, because it's got 4 high slots, so you have your repper, you got your 2 cap chain, and you've got your dedicated gun for getting on those kill mails.
That's right.
Dedicated gun for the kill mails. You always got to get on the kill mails. Didn't
Somehow.
somebody
Just
say-
from
Go ahead.
from an interest point, Rise, how often do you guys actually get to play the game? You know, where you can kind of say, yeah, they built this, but man, this kind of sucks. Maybe we need to relook.
I mean, we get to play a lot. We can play as much as we want. I think the trick there is just our exposure to different features is a little bit different than it would be if we weren't employees, at least for some of us. We can play as much as we want as long as nobody figures out we're a dev, which means we have to kind of keep our heads down a little bit. So there's lots of features where it's really easy to, stay in touch and interact with them a lot. And then there's others, for me at least, I just have to stay away from joining big organizations, which means, interacting with like the SOV system is much harder. I need to rely a lot more on feedback or watch stuff a lot or talk to people rather than directly using it a lot myself, because I just can't join a big SOV alliance without people figuring out who I am.
Right. So do you think that maybe it would actually benefit the game if you guys, not overtly, but you made a concerted effort to join like new player corps, so you could really kind of gather the intel on what their experience.
I mean, definitely, and there's a lot of people who do. We have plenty of people playing in those groups that are not quite as easy to figure out or find. Any dev who isn't like public facing basically has a lot easier time. So we have plenty of people who are able to play in those groups. I do think it'd be great if it was easier for more of us to do that. It's kind of been a long running internal debate on how that should all work. For a while, there was a group sort of pushing really hard to make it actually overt, just to be like, devs are just going to play in the open and just suck it up because it's worth it. But we decided that wasn't a good idea and kind of kept the existing policy. But I think we're able to play plenty to stay pretty in touch with stuff, and especially once that's like supported by all the kind of connections to the community we have, whether it's CSM or normal feedback or whatever, we can round out any little gaps in our experience with talking to players.
Cool stuff.
Alrighty, Mist, you had a bunch of questions, and we've got about 10 minutes left, so you'll probably suck up all that 10 minutes. So go ahead.
I feel like I've been hogging all the time. I feel like you guys should talk for a while or something.
It's all your
Oh,
time.
you can't
just
get
a-
out of it that easy.
Every week. You're
Good
here like
try, though.
once in a while, so you get to talk because you got to catch up.
That's a
They're
very
tired
good
of listening to us anyway.
spin. You did a great spin there, trying to make that about we should talk more. The Ministry of Truth, we're always hiring.
I think I'd be great at that job.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, what hasn't Mist said
I'll
today?
get in touch after the show.
Isn't
There
like
it
Ministry
is.
of Truth just lying about video games with fake statistics?
I mean, if we truly...
No.
Sign me up.
We never lie about video games.
Do you know what?
It's lead accidentally.
I mean, if you're recruiting people like that, you should probably look for recruiting the
Oh.
higher end class of people.
There's a
And
Keepstar getting shot.
We are extremely egalitarian. There is no higher or lower class of people in the Imperium. There's just Imperium members and puppies, and those are the two classes.
So,
So, Rise, we need to make you incognito somewhere. You just give Newbie and I a call. We'll work with you.
Yeah, Penn's.
All right.
I don't work on mine and how to roll holes with faxes properly.
Yeah.
Yes, you must come in and roll a hole with the fax, please.
Man, I hope he's watching right now.
Nobody will get mad at you.
Taken out of context and not knowing what you're talking about, that'll be hilarious. If somebody grab that soundbite on you, Newbie.
Just to let everyone know, Hard Knocks that took me longer than it should have. Hard Knocks Keepstar in their signature rage system in their home staging thing in the
First timer.
wormhole. Wow, yeah, that took me. Is that 5%? Their shields are at 5%
First
for
timer.
their Keepstar. Yeah, for the Keepstar in their home territory because they are currently being invaded. And this is breaking news stuff. So this is a Keepstar in, I think it's a C5. You can have capitals in there. You can have a Doomsday. You can have a Doomsday with a rig. You can have all this big, powerful guns. And the enemy's got to actually strategically bring in stuff. And they've got to roll multiple holes to bring in. So having it at that level isn't... Rage is a C6.
I love Noisy. He's always on his A game.
He is.
Rage 6, so you can you put capitals through a C6
Yes.
wormhole from? Okay,
Yes.
so
Yes.
you can deploy capitals into it. Cool, because some systems there are people who put Keepstar in a C2. That is never going to die.
That's killable. You can do that.
Like, if you have someone who is actually competent and knows what they're doing, is probably not going to die. I'm having a look at a kill mail for a Solitaire which only had 2 low slots and no rigs and all Tech 1 gear. Clearly they didn't know what they were doing. Didn't we kill? Yes, but you didn't have to worry about getting all those ravens and all those other stuff into the wormhole environment. And it wasn't an operational Keepstar as well. That is a major factor that goes into it.
Well, the problem with killing a Keepstar in a hole is you have to get to the hole.
Yeah.
And then you have to get people willing to stay in that hole for a long time and log off in that hole. I mean, that is something I think CCP should actually look at is like, okay, how do we get people, we want things to blow up, but how do you get people there that it doesn't take 3 weeks to get a force sizable enough to do it?
But the problem is with setting up in a wormhole operation, it takes longer to set up in wormhole, and because you've got to get all your stuff in effectively. And the payoff from that is that obviously if people want to come and blow your shit up, they've then got to go through the same thing of getting logistics stuff in. So it'd be interesting to see how this news story develops. Obviously, there are people on the scene going to be reporting on for it. Back what was I saying before? Abyss. So we've got the Logi which are coming in for the new range. Is there any more further plans to upgrade the Trigavian? Looking at the way that their weapons are based, the Dreadnought might be the next biggest thing that you could possibly bring in, because a Trigavian carrier doesn't really work in the flavor thing of the continuously firing. So Trigavian Dreads when?
I don't know, but we're not done.
Yeah. Tell us all your future plans, please.
Yeah,
'cause
Candy.
the show's really important.
Tell you what, we're gonna keep making spaceships. That's for sure.
I gotta tell you, the Triglavian ships just look phenomenal. The art team, all the new structures too. I had to run the structures thing before the show because they just look so freaking cool. I love when games look
Art's
cool.
really been killing it. I mean, they kind of have forever, but all the stuff the last couple of years has been really phenomenal. I mean, the Abyss environments too are just like mind blowing.
It's really hard to get on that art team, isn't it?
I don't know. I haven't tried.
I've tried.
Oh,
and it's-
are you bitter much, RJ?
Yeah, bitter.
I am not bitter. I'm actually. I would continue to try. Actually,
I would recommend to keep pissing off CCP's HR, and you'll be on the team in no time.
no. It's while I was out in Vegas, I talked to CC Blue Screen a little bit. Very nice guy, but he looked at my portfolio and so on, and told me which route to go. So I'll try again eventually.
Nice. Yeah, keep it up.
Yeah, but I don't know about moving to Iceland. Looks nice.
Well, apparently Portland's fine. So
You got to do a.
Yeah, what is up with these masochists, man?
What do you-
Either an island where it rains sideways, or a frickin' state where it does nothing but rain.
Oh, I was upset when the Atlanta office kind of closed because I'm only like 4 hours away from Atlanta.
that's still a hell of a
Yeah.
commute.
Yeah, I had to do a stint in Iceland though. You gotta go to Iceland. It's it's really
Generally,
special.
generally in a lot of those gaming companies, juniors or just regular artists, aside from seniors, aren't going to be working remote.
Yeah. Yeah, we actually have hardly anyone remote these days. It's like I think I'm one of 3 right now, and I actually spend a lot of time in Iceland still, so it's only like half remote. I bounce back and forth a lot.
It's good for the miles.
It's true.
I realized something about miles though. It always seemed so good before, but now that I fly a ton, I realize that I don't want to go on any more trips. So it's kind of a worthless thing to get.
You'll get old one day. So I mean, if they don't expire, you're gonna like.
All right, cool. I'll save them
Yeah.
up. Yeah.
Definitely.
Once I retire, go to the island, like tropics or whatever, using my Iceland miles.
Absolutely.
Or you can do what a friend of ours does. He shall remain nameless. And then when he goes on business trips, he just upgrades his hotel and his room and upgrades
Nice.
everything. And when he goes on vacation, he upgrades everything and buys additional services with his points. And it's, all works
That
pretty
sounds.
good.
That sounds
I
like a
love
plan.
that person who should be nameless.
Yes, I know.
That person that must drive us into a cornfield.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, we almost died a couple weeks ago, CCP Rise. We almost ended up in a cornfield dead.
Drive us into a cornfield because he can't read no outlet signs.
I'm sorry that didn't work out for you.
And it wasn't even an alcohol-related incident.
Yeah.
The
Yikes.
thing is, the show was 50. Us taking the show, it was 50% of the people on the show were drunk at the time. I
No
believe.
Current
way.
people on this show?
You
No, we were not
lie.
even close.
Well, that's because only 50% of us are of drinking age.
I'm not doing that.
Oh, that hurt my feelings.
We
Well,
we want to be clear here that, Mist is the only one on this show who actually likes Entosis Rise, so just he loves it. He lives for
I do
it.
enjoy it.
He
my-
does.
my favorite-
He truly does.
My favorite thing about Entosis, and this set me up for it for life, was during the tail end of the campaign when I was flying my Entosis, my Vexors in to do some Entosising, and some Darkness people turned up and shot me, and I'm like, yes, kill me, I get SRP. And it was
Your
like,
favorite part of breakfast is pushing down the toaster lever and waiting for it to pop, isn't it?
yeah, because
That's-
when people turn up and you're like, yes, if you kill me, I get SRP, and they're like, hang on, you guys get SRP for throwing ships away at targets for solve, and I'm like, yes. And it's like,
I think if
just
the
their
art team would
realization.
come up with some kind of a color, like you get a gold Entosis beam for like 100 systems, that would Mist. That's what we'd never see Mist again. He'd just be out there with his little gold beam.
I'll tell
Sorry, I was just reading. I'm just reading the Twitch chat at the moment.
No, I'm waiting for what Rise is going to say because it sounds like it's going to be funny.
No.
He's like we are when he starts talking about Entosis. It's like
I never bring it up. I'll have you know.
Never.
And-
Never. Like every other
You
show.
guys
Exactly
guys
why we all know
mention
about it, because you never bring it up.
Yeah, you guys all start mentioning it. My last question about Abyss is, so with the PvP arena, there's like the lore idea, from what I understand, is it's almost like the Triglavians are like inviting Capsules in to fight. Is this like it's a way of them trying to study and understand how Capsules fight as a preparation for a possible invasion in known space? Is that something we can do? Because they're studying how they fight on a one-to-one basis, trying to understand them in possible invasion. Is that something possibly on the horizon?
I mean, probably no Triglavian invasions anytime super soon, but I don't know. I'm not gonna like tell you about like. I mean, that sounds like a good surprise if it was gonna happen, don't you think? Rather than like announce it in a podcast.
But no one listens to this anyway. I figured you could put my favorite thing is you put CCP puts patch notes out weeks in advance. Come patch day, people are like, "Why is this happening?
Oh yeah,
When did this change?"
people, I would love to know. I've never heard what I don't know if it's even possible to find out, but what are like actual. I think probably less than half people read anything outside the client at all. You know, dev blogs and patch notes and stuff. So I
Bots
think
can't read.
it must be a very surprising experience for a lot of folks. Like all the time. I mean, every month there's probably stuff coming out that some of it's probably pretty jarring. Like it's definitely worth reading patch notes.
Okay.
But I think a lot of people don't.
Alrighty, folks. Well, it is 2:00, so we are going to go around real quick for the one last thing for everybody. I'll start with the folks offline, and then we will end with you, CCP Rise.
What's one last thing?
It is whatever you want to say at the end of the show.
It's the last thing you say.
Yep,
All right.
every show. So I'll start with you, Scythe.
Yeah.
There he goes. RJ?
Yeah, I'm not ready for that. I'm out.
RJ?
Okay. Yeah, keep coming up with good stuff. I mean, this game always keeps attracting me back, and it's just probably because of a lot of the designers and the devs and the art team, especially the art team. Wink, wink. But yeah, keep doing good things, man.
Oh, thanks.
All right, Para, we're going to go to you.
Okay, fantastic. I just want to give a shout out to our high-sec and low-sec listeners who don't have the opportunity to enjoy Entosis-based gameplay. If you want to experience this in your own home, you can take an egg timer, set it to 5 minutes, put it on the table, and then it'll go off and nothing will happen. That's exactly what Entosis is. And you're good to go. So,
Oh my god.
Mist, would you like to respond?
You
When
don't
you
get
set,
SRP in real life.
you set your egg timer off in 5 minutes, sometimes someone comes around with a knife trying to stab you, and then you draw out your knife, and then you start dancing around the egg timer, slowly trying to poke each other. Hopefully,
it's
Did
it's
that
just
Michael
a
Jackson
base thing.
song?
Just
Is,
sit on a gate in high-sec and don't do it. Just leave the egg timer there.
Michael Jackson just
what-
starts playing in the background, you know?
Is the dude with the knife a scope creep?
All right.
I mean,
you. Yes, Mist, you done? You want-
that's it really. I mean, I once sat on and toasting a node for
the-
about an hour because
The visual you
it-
provided, amazing.
Hmm.
I prefer Paris, but yeah, go ahead. Newbie, you're up.
I'd just like to thank Rise for taking the time on a Saturday. I know that they work hard during the week, and you know they want to have a life too. So much appreciation.
Yep. And Rise,
Thanks.
you're
No
on.
problem, dude.
You're on.
Well, let me return that with thanks for having me, even though it's the weekend. That's not a big deal. It's fun to talk about Eve. So I'm happy to be here. And I did want to say sorry for not grabbing more stuff from chat. Since I was talking almost the whole time, I didn't actually look over a lot and catch a lot of this stuff. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe next time I'd like to come back. Then there wasn't, I don't know, not too much, hopefully, that I missed. I'm trying to scroll back through. Maybe I'll grab a couple in chat before I go. But yeah, thanks. It's just fun. Happy to talk to you guys.
Yep. And since Newbie took, my thunder for my one last thing, I really don't have much. Other than thank you very much, Rise.
Blaming me.
And you are more than welcome to be on the show. Anybody from CCP is anytime that you guys want to be here. Anytime you want to promote something, we are here. We'd love to chat because we are ultimately here because we love the game, even though sometimes we complain about it. But we truly love it, and it's a game we've played, most of us, for many, many, many years. So thank you again for taking the time. We appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries.
All right, folks. Oh, squeaky bee. All right, we're gonna leave the show with a little Ruined Dreams and then the INN identification, and we're out of here. Thank you, everybody in the audience, for joining us on another weekend. We appreciate your time and watching the show, and thanks a lot. Everybody say bye.
Bye.
Later.
Bye-bye.
INN identification. We're on INN. Done.
There you
Done.
go. There you go.
I got you.